Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about unlocking the power of emojis and GIFs. So let's jump onto that. So the objectives of today's session is to talk about the rise of visual communication, understanding emojis, decoding GIFs, why embrace emojis and GIFs, and integrating emojis and GIFs effectively, as well as embracing diversity and inclusivity, and we're going to have a live demo at the end. The first part we're going to talk about is the rise of visual communication. So as you know, in today's digital age, communication is no longer limited to text alone. We have visual elements that we can use, such as emojis and GIFs, and they offer a rich and expressive means of communicating. So a little bit of history and background. Emojis originally were derived from Japanese pictographs, and now we've seen a big rise in their usage since their introduction. And actually, according to some studies, over 90% of the online population uses emojis regularly. And I myself am a big fan of emojis. I feel like if someone is talking to me with no emoji, I feel like they're mad at me. So I always really need to add like a smiley face at the end. And not to mention that emojis also allow us to convey, emotions, reactions, and context with a simple symbol. And let's move on. Okay, moving on to GIFs. So GIFs is a short for graphics interchange format. All you need to know about them is that they're animated images or short video clips that pretty much loop endlessly. So unlike a video where you can pause it and resume whenever you want to watch it, a GIF will just go on and on and on and on. So there's like no stopping it in a way. And just like an emoji, it's a dynamic way to express your emotions, your reactions. And also there's a search engines now. So you can actually, let's say if you want to express, Happy Mother's Day, for example, you can type that into like a search engine and you can probably find a GIF that says, Happy Mother's Day with a cute dog with some roses. So you can literally find anything. And essentially, as we mentioned before, is similar to emojis. These have revolutionized how we talk with others, and they make it easier to engage with others as well because it's more visual and expressive. So understanding emojis, so a little bit of background on them is that initially they were limited to a set of 176 symbols, but now there's like a collection of over 3,000 like emojis that can cover a wide range of emotions. So as you know, there's emojis for an activity, for food, for an expression, or maybe even for not a clothing item. And there's different groups of emojis. So we have like smiley faces, we have the animals, nature, the food and drinks, activities, traveling, places, so forth. And here you can see some of the most commonly used, such as the face that's like laughing. We also have the red heart, the heart eyes, the smiling face, the folded hands. And as we've been talking about, these are very, very ingrained in digital culture. And as you can see, a lot of people use them. And one thing to note about emojis is that while they are universally used, the interpretation might be different across cultures and regions, sorry. So as you can see, one of the emojis that fold the hands, for some people, it might mean like, it's someone doing like a high five, whereas other people might see that as, like a prayer hand. So they might have different meanings or cultural significance depending on the context that you're using them. So whenever you're talking to someone and you use an emoji, they might interpret that differently. Now, moving on to GIFs, as I mentioned, GIF is short for graphics interchange format. And essentially, it's an image that is animated. So, and like I said before, it has a looping sequence, so it never ends. And the fun thing about GIFs is that there's such a wide range of them. So, like I said, you can find anything in a GIF search engine. If you want, you can even type in, a hot dog with mustard, or you can type in a dancing dog, and it's probably going to be a GIF for it. And you can use these usually to communicate with others. I really like using GIFs with my younger cousins because they don't really know how to text or type yet. So there's a good way to communicate with them and share a message, and they understand that. Furthermore, as I mentioned before, there's a GIF search engine. Typically, it's an app that you can download on your phone, or you can just simply use Google. Or here I have some options such as Jiffy and Teener and Imgur, I think that's how you say it, which has a collection of GIFs that you can go in and just find whichever you're looking for. These are very commonly used across social media platforms, as you can see, also through messaging apps, network forums, and emails. And if you use them correctly, sometimes they can enhance the clarity, humor, or the emotional resonance of your message. But it is important to consider the context and the audience when you're selecting a certain GIF. So why should you be using them? Well, as I mentioned before, emojis and GIFs provide visual cues that enhance the clarity and tone of online communication. Sometimes when I'm talking to someone through text, it's hard to tell what they're trying to tell me, because there's no tone in text. So maybe by them sending me like a funny GIF, I get that, okay, this is a friendly conversation, a light-hearted conversation. And like I said before, it also helps convey your emotions and your intentions. Furthermore, it just shows that if you're into social media, so a lot of the social media posts and messages that have emojis and GIFs receive higher levels of engagement, such as likes, shares, and comments. And it seems like people really like to see these kind of things as well. And like I said before, it's relatable and it leads to, higher interaction from others. Not to mention that emojis and GIFs can also add humor and personality into your online communication. They can make your interaction more enjoyable and memorable. And sometimes if you're talking to someone for the first time in a while, or it's just a new friend that you're making, it can help lighten the mood or break the ice, which is something that I've done with new people that I have not talked to that much. So that kind of opens up the conversation. Emojis and GIFs also reflect current cultural trends and societal norms. So a lot of people will use GIFs to talk about maybe where they're from or some things that are typical to their culture. And I think that's also a really nice way to communicate rather than just texting it out. I think it provides that visual aspect to it. All right, so how do we integrate emojis and GIFs effectively? Well, as I mentioned before, these are used widely on social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, and they can help us make our comment more appealing and engaging. So when you want to share a GIF or emoji, of course, you want to do it relevant to the context. You can add humor, or you can convey a complex idea in a concise and entertaining manner. They can also add a little bit of personality and warmth to your message, especially like I mentioned before, if you haven't talked to someone or you're communicating with them for the first time, but you adding an emoji or GIF can give them a pretty good sense of who you are, of your personality as well. And also you can add emojis and GIFs in email subject lines or within the body of the email, which is something I did not know before that you could do. And then a lot of times on our own keywords, like I know that WhatsApp has its own search engine for GIFs. So instead of going to Google and trying to find one on WhatsApp, there's like a little option that gives you the option to search there. And also I know if you use iPhones and you have iMessage, you can also find a GIF through that message when you're typing it out, right? And a lot of times people will use emojis to react to posts, especially if you're active on Facebook, you see that a lot. Sometimes people use it to express agreement, appreciation, or to convey empathy with other members. So how can we embrace diversity and inclusivity? So emojis and GIFs should be used in a manner that respects diversity and promotes inclusivity. You don't want to use one that perpetuates a stereotype, might be offensive, or to others. And you can also be mindful of the potential for misinterpretation when you're using an emoji or GIF that depicts race, ethnicity, gender, religion, or other sensitive subjects, which I've seen happen commonly, not in an ill manner way, but like I mentioned before, people might interpret these differently depending on their backgrounds. Okay, so lastly, when you're using emojis and GIFs, you want to still foster a welcoming and inclusive environment in the online communities. Like I mentioned before, you want to promote respectful, inclusive use of these emojis and GIFs. You don't want to use something that perpetuates, a stereotype or might be offensive to others. And also, when you see someone doing it, you can also choose to educate them about the importance of cultural sensitivity. All right, thank you for listening. That is all for emojis and GIFs.